the nation who has sponsored all the terrorism and all the atrocities around the globe and the attacks on Americans everywhere who chant death to America, he gave the leaders of Iran a chance to make a deal, and they flatly refused it. The bombing that took place set back their nuclear program substantially, and that is good for peace around the globe and for all freedom-loving people everywhere, and certainly Americans, because if they had a nuclear capability, they would probably fire on Israel instantaneously. Their stated goal is to wipe Israel off the map, but they would certainly turn their attention to us as well.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to meet you and to sit with you here in the Capitol, in your office. You just were at the epicenter of the storm of President Trump made his, what I think is an incredibly courageous decision to finish a war that Iran started almost a half century ago. He kept a promise to keep Iran from getting the bomb. But there was tremendous opposition. I mean, two of the president's close friends, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, just to name two, were deeply opposed. Drop Israel, don't do it, you're betraying MAGA. How did you see the president's decision? Because I know you strongly supported it, but why? Why was the president right and Tucker and Steve on this wrong?
Well, I would say the president has been insistent and consistent about the Iran problem, I mean, for many, many years. Yeah. You go back and play the tape, and he's always said that they cannot be armed with a nuclear weapon. You cannot give the chief sponsor of terrorism around the globe a nuclear arsenal.
That seems like a fairly straightforward proposition.
Right.
And yet?
And I think most reasonable people understand that that's an important objective, and the president has never wavered on it. So when they came so close as they did to actually having that capability, he was really given no choice. And of course, we allowed Israel to go in first and do what they did, and then there came this moment of decision where the nation who has sponsored all the terrorism and all the atrocities around the globe and the attacks on Americans everywhere who chant death to America, he gave the leaders of Iran a chance to make a deal, and they flatly refused it. So he had no choice in the matter. The bombing that took place set back their nuclear program substantially, and that is good for peace around the globe and for all freedom-loving people everywhere, and certainly Americans, because if they had a nuclear capability, they would probably fire on Israel instantaneously. Their stated goal is to wipe Israel off the map, but they would certainly turn their attention to us as well. So, I mean,
Israel's only the little Satan in their end times theology.
Satan.
We're the great Satan here in the United States. And yet, these are very influential voices for the president, and really making the direct accusation. Again, you're betraying your promises to MAGA that we don't get into forever wars. I mean, this took 37 hours for the United States to
It's quite
take
the
care
opposite
of business.
of a forever war.
It seems like it ended something.
Correct.
How concerned are you about the growing anti-Israel sentiment among these two leaders and on the right?
Well, there are a number of voices who look. There's isolationists in the party, and there are anti-interventionalists, and this is neither of those things. It shouldn't be a concern to those folks, because we're not going into nation build. America's not investing anymore. We're protecting our own interest. Remember, the Iranians are firing on U.S. troops and our, American assets in the region, and through their proxies and all the Houthis and the Hezbollah and Hamas and all the rest. We have to maintain peace through strength, and that's what the president is for. He doesn't have any interest in investing American blood and treasure in rebuilding countries around the world. That's not what America First is. But at the same time, he understands to maintain our status as the strongest country in the world, the last great superpower, which we are, that you cannot allow an avowed enemy of the U.S. to have a nuclear weapon that they could potentially fire on a major U.S. city. And this is just very simple. So I understand the concern about people, and I sympathize with the arguments of people who say we should not be getting into forever wars. I don't want that either. I don't think that's a doctrine that our party should support. But this was a distinct and I think unusual situation, and needed extraordinary measures. The president made the right choice, did the right thing, and by God's grace, not a single American was harmed. Right. We ended it, as you said, in 37 hours, and the desired outcome was achieved. That's the kind of military strike that only America is capable of. And if we are not willing to wield it every now and then the capability doesn't really exist, and people around the world can see that. Our adversaries have taken notice. Our allies have as well. They respect America again. America's back because we're strong again. That's peace through strength. And our adversaries, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, all of them have taken notice. That's a very important thing for us to reestablish, especially after the last 4 years of total weakness and appeasement that the Democrats and the Biden-Harris administration brought about.
This event, the president's decisive attack to destroy those 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, this may end up proving to be the antidote to President Biden pulling the plug on U.S. involvement in Afghanistan and seeing the entire 20-year investment collapse within hours. This is the exact opposite, in my view.
Sure, we reestablished American strength and dominance again, and after the Afghanistan, the abject failure that was, the debacle, the total lack of leadership, we were on our heels in terms of our standing around the world. Our allies were doubting us in so many ways, and then President Trump comes in and reasserts American strength. And if we had not had that strength right now, we would be losing our footing in economic issues, even domestically, foreign and domestic affairs. So we had to have a strong leader. President Trump is that figure, and he is willing to take the arrows for doing the right thing. And I think history will record that this was clearly the right and necessary thing to have been done.
Israel and Iran have stopped their missile war, but a spiritual battle is still taking place. Today, nearly 99% of Israelis don't yet know Jesus. Think about that. Nearly 99% of Israelis don't yet know Jesus, but a miracle is unfolding. One for Israel is a ministry that shares the gospel, and I can tell you, Jewish people are starting to accept Jesus in numbers not seen since the early church. Many Arabs are also finding faith and unity. One for Israel is an initiative of native-born Israelis sharing the gospel, discipling believers, and equipping spiritual leaders across Israel. As Romans 10:1 expresses, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they may be saved. Your support helps bring the gospel back to Israel. I want you to do something right now. Pick up the phone and call 800-892-9065. That's 800-892-9065 to help share the gospel in Israel. Visit oneforisrael.org/partner or scan the QR code.
I struggle to understand what Tucker wants from an ally. You have been a pretty vocal, not just a defender of the U.S.-Israel alliance, but essentially making the case that Israel is a model ally. Israel got 97% of the attack against Iran done and didn't ask for U.S. boots on the ground. If the United States has a plane and a bomb that can finish a fight faster, what are Tucker and the others, Steve Bannon and the other, but in this, I don't know if this is a wing yet, but the influence is high. What do they expect of any ally? Isn't this the type of ally that we want?
I certainly think so. It's a matter of faith for me. I don't have any quarrel with Tucker or Steve. I'm not sure what their analysis is, but mine is very clear and it's been consistent my whole life. I think it is a model alliance that we have with Israel. It's a special alliance. It's unlike any other in the nation because we have a shared Judeo-Christian heritage. It was part of the founding of our very nation 249 years ago. And I don't think we can forget that. This goes back to the opening book in Genesis. I'm blessed the nation that blesses Israel and curse the nation that curses Israel. And there's all sorts of theological interpretations of how that applies to us today, but I take it literally and I understand that this is, as Scripture is very clear, this is God's chosen people, and Christians around the world are supposed to have high regard for that. So it's a matter of faith to me, but if you just set the faith issues aside and you just look at it practically, if you're just looking for America first as an agenda and the interest of America, it is clearly within our interest to have a close alliance with Israel as the only stable democracy in the region, which is a tinderbox for all the reasons we know, and to have a strong presence there. And the only reason Israel is still surviving right now, listen to the Prime Minister himself, Netanyahu, who says this openly. Yeah, he's a close friend. That they understand that they would have been taken out as a country a long time ago if the perception was not that the U.S. was standing with them and effectively right behind them as sort of a big brother. And it's an important thing for us to maintain that relationship and that perception. And I think President Trump has done that in spades.
He has. But I also want to thank you. Israel was attacked. Lynn and I live in Jerusalem. We were there on October 7th, and through all the horrors that ensued, the U.S. didn't have a Speaker of the House on October 7th. We couldn't move legislation, couldn't move money or weapons to move to stand with Israel. You came in, I think it was October 25th.
23rd.
23rd, sorry. Thank you. You would know.
No, that's right. October 25th or 23rd.
All right,
You're
well,
right. Even I don't know.
We'll clean it up. But anyway, we'll figure that out.
It seems like 10 years ago.
I bet.
Yeah.
My recollection is the first thing you did was pass a resolution reaffirming the U.S.-Israel alliance. And within, I don't remember exactly how long, but soon you started moving legislation that got passed, took a while in the Senate, to get money and weapons flowing. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for that. And then you wanted to come over to Israel. I was going to see you as you were going to give a big speech to the Knesset. I think only the third or fourth time that a Speaker of the House.
That would have been third time, yeah.
It would have been third time. That got scuttled by the whole Iran kerfuffle, the 12-day war, as it were.
It would have fallen on like day 4 of the war,
Yeah.
I think, yes.
Yeah. So you got a pretty busy schedule, and you haven't taken a lot of foreign trips as Speaker because you had a lot to do. But first of all, thank you for wanting to. And is that rescheduled?
Yes, we've been working on that aggressively. I can't wait to get to return, and it hopefully will happen very soon. A lot of logistics involved in that, but we have lots to do over there, and they've invited me. It's my great honor to be invited to speak to the Knesset, and I look forward to that opportunity. And I think it's important. These relationships are very important. Israel's leaders come over here routinely, and it's important for us to return the favor. And I love our ambassador, Mike Huckabee. He's just doing a great job, and he and I have been in very close communication about all this and trying to work out logistics. So I hope it happens soon. I don't have a lot of breaks in the schedule here.
Yeah.
But as soon as we get one, my intention is to get over there.
Well, we will cover it. We look forward to that. Yeah. Hey, I want to shift to, you've been mentioning allies all throughout this and the importance of the U.S. alliances and the message this has sent. President Trump's decisiveness and keeping promises. By the way, I didn't expect 60 meant 60. When he gave Iran 60 days, I didn't understand that on day 61, when Iran didn't do anything, that he basically called Bibi and said, do what you got to do. We're with you. And that's when the attack started. I want to shift to China, communist China, and the threat to Taiwan. First, I want to give you a book. This is my
awesome.
latest political thriller. I'm a failed political consultant, so that's why you and I don't talk about politics in terms of advice.
Yep.
But I became a novelist. I'm also a journalist. This is about communist China getting ready, not in years or in months, but in hours or days, to attack and invade the democratic island of Taiwan, and to unleash a horrific biotoxin inside the United States days before the attack to try to paralyze us.
Doesn't sound like fiction.
Well, I pray that it remains fiction,
Yeah.
but how do you see the communist Chinese threat to Taiwan, to U.S. interests ultimately, and Taiwan being the bulwark of our interests in the Pacific? Not the only one, but if we lose Taiwan, in my view, why should South Korea trust us? Why should Japan trust us? Why should anybody in the region, much less the world? So you had a very important but controversial call last year with the new Taiwanese president, President Lai. What's your perspective? How should evangelical Christians and other Americans see how you see communist China, Taiwan, and the challenges in the Pacific?
Well, when we say America first, we have to look out for America's interest. And it is my view that China is our chief adversary. It's not just mine. It's shared by all of our leaders at the Pentagon. And, we have the top principal threats to our national security, and China's at the top of everybody's list for all the obvious reasons. They're almost a peer-to-peer adversary with us, which is frightening because we haven't had one of those since World War II. And they're advancing, and they have a long agenda. They've been very steady and very aggressive. And while we had 4 years of just languishing as a country and declining in every metric, China was on the march, literally. And so it's a very dangerous time for us. I mean, in the AI race, for example, they're trying to catch us. We're slightly ahead. We must stay ahead in that area and in others. And the threat of what we face in the Indo-Pacific is very real. And the one big beautiful bill that we just passed, we invested another $12 billion specifically to our military in the Indo-Pacific region for military exercises, preparation, and readiness, and the like. It's very important, and it's a signal that the Congress understands the necessity of maintaining the peace in that region. If they moved on Taiwan, in your hopefully fictitious example here, it would be a disastrous thing for the country because of, chips, for example. The processors that we use in every device that we all rely upon I mean, the vast majority of those are made in Taiwan, of course. Just on that one simple, just eliminate everything else. Look at the interest that America has in making sure that continues. Now, we're trying to onshore the manufacturing of chips and everything else, and President Trump is making great strides in Congresses as well. But there's a lag time there, and but we have to maintain the peace. We have to hold China to their barriers. This is a very important principle since World War II, that you can't just go take the neighboring country if you want. That's not how this works anymore. I am heartened by our NATO alliance now committing to give 5% of their GDP instead of just 2%.
Yeah, that's huge.
Zero chance that would have happened if Donald J. Trump was not in the Oval Office, okay? Because I was at the G7 speakers meeting in Verona, Italy last August, the only trip I've taken internationally as speaker because I had to go to the G7.
Right.
My counterparts there, the speakers of the other great parliaments of our closest allies, and there was him-hawing and people saying, gee, I don't know if our country can get there. Maybe we can get there in 15 years or so. Now, this is a commitment that NATO allies made to give 2% of their GDP. And Trump gets elected, and it's like a complete about-face. And now they're all saying not just 2%, 5%. So all these developments are important that will help us maintain the peace, again, through strength. And we have to keep a close eye on China. The president takes it very seriously. Remember, he was one of the first people talking about the threat to China back 2015 and 2016. China.
I know
Remember,
you
they made fun of
do a
it.
great impression, but I mean,
Right.
he really hasn't put that in front. And he changed my view on communist China. I really thought engagement was the right way, and I hadn't kept up with the fact that all the evidence said that engagement had not worked.
No, and look,
China had become more aggressive.
That's right. And he wants to avoid military conflict at all costs.
Sure.
And he is trying heroically to engage and negotiate with Xi and to have a trade agreement with China that's essential for both countries, and to sort of hold all that at bay. But you got to have willing partners. You can't have a negotiation unless you have a reasonable, rational leader on the other side. We're all prayerful that this can be resolved. We don't want to have an armed conflict with China. And if they move on Taiwan, it puts the whole world a serious threat for all the reasons you noted, and I'm sure you've written about eloquently here.
I think a lot of Americans, a lot of evangelicals still don't know you. I would just love for you to share a little bit about your own personal faith in Jesus Christ, because you've mentioned it multiple times in this conversation, and it's not something that you keep in a closet. The fact that you are a speaker, and by the way, that you've held on to the speaker, sometimes by your nails, it's not been easy. Where does your faith come from? How old were you when you came to faith in Jesus Christ? And what should Christians know? What should Americans know generally about Mike Johnson when it comes to his personal faith?
Try to summarize it very quickly. I mean, my life story is a pretty simple one. I'm the product of a teen pregnancy. My mom and dad were high school sweethearts, and I was conceived their junior year in high school. It wasn't expected. It was exactly a year before Roe v. Wade, January of 72. Roe was decided January 22nd of 73. But abortion was still available, and lots of people try to convince them you can just take care of that problem. But thankfully for me, my parents were raised in Catholic families, and they knew something about the sanctity of human life, and they decided, well, gee, I guess we'll start a family. So they dropped out of school and went to work and had me. And my father became a firefighter, and we had three younger siblings, and we had a great Christian family. It wasn't easy because they were trying to make ends meet. My dad had to do 4 jobs at a time. And when I was 12 years old in 1984, my dad was an assistant chief on our local fire department. He was blown up in an explosion on the job. He got it burned 80% of his body, 3rd-degree burns. We were a Christian household. I mean, I was raised in church from the time I was little. I got baptized in a horse trough behind our country church at age 7. Okay,
that I didn't know.
Yeah. It was great. We didn't have a lot of material things, but we had a lot of love in the family, and I had a great childhood. But when my dad got injured, he was permanently disabled after that, having been burned everywhere in his body, and he retired from the fire service. And so my sole goal in life was to be the chief of the Shreveport Fire Department in Northwest Louisiana, my hometown, because I grew up at the Fire and Police Training Academy. My dad was also a training officer, and I just loved the whole fraternity and the heroism and the service of that. But after Dad got injured, they encouraged us to go to school. So I became the first person in my family to go to college, and then went to law school, and then wound up somehow in the speaker's office. It's a long, circuitous route. But look, my faith has guided me every day of my life, and it's very real to me. When I was 12 years old and I saw my dad's life miraculously spared, it wasn't just an ethereal concept. I mean, I was a little guy, but I thought, this is real. God is active and involved, and we can turn to him. And that's informed how I orchestrate my life. I have a biblical worldview. It's not something you can separate. It's not something you just do on Sunday mornings. It's a 7-day-a-week, 365 approach to life. I follow the biblical mandates as best I can. The commands, the principles in Scripture is what guides me here every single day. And if you employ the commands of Scripture, it works pretty well. You know, the Creator is the one that gave us all those and those guidelines, and I try to follow them here, and I try to encourage others to do it as well. And by the way, that's seen as some sort of radical thing here. It's exactly what the framers of our great republic did. They believed those same principles. It's what created our country, and we were built upon that, and we do well to stick by it.
I appreciate the depth of your faith and your openness and talk about it. All right, I have to ask you one last question. Do you have a prayer in holding the house? If I'll just frame it that way. I mean, that is a big concern of everybody. You got a razor thin margin and a lot of challenges.
We have more than a prayer. That is the prayer, but I have a conviction and a belief that we're going to grow the majority for the Republican Party in the midterm election. We'll defy history to do it. It's only twice in, I think, the last 90 years that a sitting president has picked up seats for his party in that first 2-year cycle. But we'll do it this time. 2 quick reasons. Number one, we had a true demographic shift in the last election. We had large groups of people who had come to the party, Hispanic and Latino voters, Black and African American voters, Jewish voters, union workers, people who hadn't been with us in large numbers. They are now. We just demonstrated with the big, beautiful bill and the rest of our agenda that we're for them, and our policies are good for them, benefits them. Oh, and it's not woke progressive Marxism like the other team offers, okay? We're going to hold those coalitions, and we have a very favorable election map going into 26. There are many more Democrats sitting in districts that Trump won than Republicans sitting in districts that Kamala Harris won. So that makes it a very favorable situation for us. We recruit qualified candidates. We put them out there in the field. We show the alternative, and we're going to flip blue seats to red. I'm absolutely convinced that we're going to make history. I'm very bullish about it. Yes.
That's good to know. I want to thank you. One last thing as we close. You defunded Planned Parenthood. Okay, maybe only 1 year, but we'll take it year by year. That's something we've been praying about for a long time.
Yeah.
To protect life at so many levels, but that's one of them. And I was just in Iowa with Governor Kim Reynolds and Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We were speaking at a conference, and this was one of their most important things that they were talking about, why this bill was so important.
Well,
thank you.
I worked in the pro-life movement most of my adult life, and it's always been a big goal for us to end the forced taxpayer funding of abortion. And we did that in the big, beautiful bill. The House version, we did it for 10 years. The Senate crazy parliamentary rules, limited it to 1, but it's a big thing, a very big thing. And the first time that that's been done, I think it's the biggest win for the pro-life cause since at least Roe was overturned, and one of the biggest in our lifetimes. It's a long time box that we wanted to check, and we did. So by God's grace, we'll hold the line, and we will learn to respect the sanctity of every single human life again, and to rebuild a culture of life. It's an ongoing quest for us, but it's one we must undertake.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
We're praying for you. My wife and I, our family, are praying for you, and I think many, hopefully all TBN viewers are praying for you as well.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We survive on it, and thanks for the book. I look forward to that.